Hello Cardfighters, welcome back to Vanguard Central Academy. We're here to wrap up the How to Play series with this beginner video. Hopefully you're here because you watched the Novice series, you played those games without using any skills other than maybe the ones that we mentioned in the video, which were perfect guards, stride fodders, and the stride mechanic itself. But if you didn't play with those, you can go ahead and get a couple games with them in anyway. So don't worry. This video we're just going to cover some of the things that I didn't go over in the Novice series, as well as abilities and symbols, just so that you can really get a grasp of everything. You can combine this with the knowledge from the Novice series and you'll just be able to play Vanguard. And there's probably going to be a lot of terms that other players use that you may not understand, so just ask them about it. You can definitely ask me if there's enough requests. I'll make a video about like really common terms. And if you think there's anything that I miss or any questions you have, definitely let me know, because after this we're just going to go into like tips and tricks series and rule question videos. So let's get started. One thing that you may have come across is not having the right grade to ride up, like whether it's a 2 or a 3. It could be anything. And that sucks, right? Because you get to watch your opponent. He's going to get to ride his better units, the stronger units, and you're stuck at grade 1 or 2 or whatever. You can't get the twin drive of grade 3, and you slowly lose the game because of that, and it's pretty frustrating, right? But there is a way around it that was introduced when Stride was released, and it's called G Assist. So we have a sample board set up here, and we got our hand, and if you look at our hand, we're grade 2, but we don't have a grade 3. What are we going to do? We're going to G-Assist. So to G-Assist, you need to show your hand to your opponent. That way they can confirm you don't have any grade 3s, you're not trying to do any shenanigans. Then once your opponent's confirmed that, you get to take the top 5 cards of your deck, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and check them out. Hopefully we get a grade 3. Alright, so we got one grade 3, that's what we're looking for. Of course this can be used whenever you're missing any grade. So if you're missing a grade 1, you could G-Assist for a grade 1, you could G-Assist for a grade 2, and right now we're G-Assisting for grade 3. But you can't G-Assist for grade 4, you stop being able to use this at grade 3. So to perform a G-Assist, we can choose our grade 3. It's important to note you don't actually have to choose anything, so maybe we got like a crappy grade 3, we didn't want to ride, we don't actually have to choose something, so you just send it back. But we do want this guy, Gurgwit. So we're going to go ahead, we put him into our hand, and the rest of the cards go back into the deck, and of course, we shuffle a little bit. So that seems pretty awesome, right? But there is a cost, there's a downside to G-Assisting. The cost of G-Assisting is first removing 2 cards from your hand from the game. So let's get rid of those guys just for the heck of it. Not choosing, you want to think about it a little bit, maybe some cards will be more useful for you, but it doesn't really matter for us, but just to show. And then you also need to remove 2 of your G units from your stride deck from the game. So these guys, they're going to go, they don't go to the drop zone, they don't go to the damage zone or bind zone, they get removed from the game. So you need to like put them really far off, but like off the camera, completely off your play mat or whatever your play zone is. You don't want them there, you can't get them back at all. So that's really the downside of G-Assisting. You get rid of cards, you can never get them back. But don't forget to shuffle them back in before your next game, because that happens plenty of times. So now we've completed G-Assist. We showed our opponent that we don't have a grade 3. We added one to our hand, obviously showing the card that we add to our hand to our opponent. Paid the cost by removing 2 cards from our hand and 2 G units from the game. And now we can continue the ride phase and ride our grade 3. So that's pretty much it for G-Assist. I feel like I should have covered that in the Novice video, but it's okay. So one other situation that you may have come across that was kind of unfortunate is when you have units and you want to like replace them with another unit. Well, you can actually do that. It's generally called calling over. So say we do have in our hand, we have this grade 2. For whatever reason, maybe we don't want to put it over here. We actually want to make a column with it. We can't do that even though these units are already there. So to perform a call over, you're just going to call it into the same place. And so they're there briefly for a second, and then the unit that was previously there gets moved over here to the drop zone. I know it's kind of cut off, but the drop zone over there. So you place your unit over one that was already there, and the previous unit gets put into the drop zone. So you can kind of fix your board that way. Maybe you have some units that you want to play, you want to make better numbers, better columns, or use some special abilities. That's a way that you can do that by calling over your opponent. So you can not only can you switch, you can also call over. So that's really the game mechanics that didn't get explained in Novice that are going to help you improve your game and add a little bit more fun to it, because sometimes it does suck, not having the grade 3 to ride or the grade 2 to ride or whatever. So next time you play, definitely keep those in mind. And we will talk about the abilities now. There are 3 types of abilities. So there's 3 types of abilities. There's automatic abilities, continuous abilities, and active abilities. So first, automatic, that's going to be happening when a specific condition is met. So one of the very common ones is when your card attacks Vanguard, then something happens. And that would be an auto ability. They have a green text and it says auto. And I'll show those in a bit. So for continuous abilities, they're obviously always going to be there. That's why they're continuous. You know they're continuous because it's a red box with Kant in it. And so that's pretty much it for continuous. But for active, they are a blue box that says act in it. Those abilities you can only activate during your main phase by paying their cost. So those ones, the autos and the active, are really much more common than continuous. Because you're going to pay some cost when something happens for autos, or just pay the cost during your main phase when you want to use it. So I got some examples of those here. So we have on the turtle guy, we have the red continuous. Hopefully you guys can see that. We have some autos here in green, and then we have the active in blue. So those are the 3 types of abilities. That's how you kind of distinguish from them. But another important thing to note are like the resources that you have to use abilities, which are Soul and Counterblast usually. So Soul will be all this space that's underneath your Vanguard. So every time you ride over a card, you are essentially adding the previous card to the Soul. So all the cards that are underneath your Vanguard are the Soul, and you're going to be using that to pay costs through Soul Blasts. And the damage zone, we'll scoot over here and add some cards to the damage zone. They start off face up, and that's how you use what we call a counterblast. So you flip it over face down. That's using one counterblast. So one counterblast is flipping a card from your damage zone face down. So that's how you're going to be paying for effects. And we'll go ahead and show some of those symbols really quick, because they're so common that Bushiroad has made symbols for Counterblast, Soul Blast, and their opposites, Countercharge and Soul Charge, which give you more of those resources. So this is a very common skill we have here, which is a Counterblast, Soul Blast 1. The purple the purple symbol is the Counterblast. It's a purple rectangle being kind of flipped over a white rectangle, and so that's just showing like your damage over here, right, is being flipped face down into the purple. That's a counterblast. So I know it's a little blurry here, but take a look at your own cards, see if you have any counterblast effects. It's very, very common, as I said. And the Soul Blast is going to be an S with like a little symbol taking cards underneath the S. So that's just like, okay, there's your Vanguard, and you're just taking some cards out of it. So that's the Soul Blast. And you'll notice that there's a number and a circle next to the Counterblast or Soul Blast symbol. When you have those kind of cards, that's how many of that you need. So like a Counterblast 2, you would flip 2 cards face down, etc. So then the opposite of that is going to be down over here. Again, I know it's blurry. I don't have the autofocus on because it goes crazy. But the opposite of the counterblast is going to be the green symbol, and it's just a green card going the other way. So when that effect would happen, you would flip a face down card from your damage zone face up, also called countercharging. And then we have kind of the orange soul charge symbol, which is taking the top card of your deck. Ooh, scoot this over. You'll take the top card of your deck and put it into the soul like so. So that's going to be a soul charge ability, and that's a little bit of an orange. Oh, sorry, so I didn't notice this. I just looked right now. The soul charge and soul blast skills, it's actually the V, so that represents your Vanguard. So that kind of shows you that you're dealing with the cards underneath the Vanguard. So that's Counterblast, Soul Blast, Soul Charge, and Counter Charge. Very, very, very common abilities in Vanguard. So make sure you get used to those symbols. I know it was pretty blurry, so I'll see if I can get an image up somewhere on the screen. But your card should have those symbols. Get used to them. Ask your friends who play the game, or just ask people in general if they know. And then there's a couple other symbols. There's this one over here. It's just like a white rectangle with a black around it, and it shows like an arrow which way it's facing. So if it's facing to the right, then that refers to rest, or if it's like standing or facing vertical, then you know it's standing. So those refer to effects that either rest the unit or stand a unit. So along with the counters, the counter blasts and the soul blast symbols, it's really good to know these ones as well, although they're a bit less common. Alright, so the last thing we're going to talk about is what happens if two abilities happen at the same time. This happens quite a lot in Vanguard, where there's automatic abilities that are going off at the same time. Very common situation is like when your Vanguard attacks, do so and so. So you could have your Vanguard have that ability, and you could have another card have that ability, or say like a stride effect. We know that Gurgut's effect when you stride a unit is Counterblast 1. Look at the top 4 cards of your deck and call one and give it plus 2,000. But maybe you have a stride that does something when you place it on Vanguard. So those abilities would both activate at the same time. How do you choose which one comes first? And Vanguard uses a system called standby. So if we have two abilities that go on, like activate at the same time, what happens is they both go to standby, and then you get to choose whichever order that you want for them to activate, and you keep doing that until there's no more effects on standby. So you could have, like, let's do effect A, B, and C. You could have effect A and B happen at the same time, and then you finish resolving effect A, and then C comes up. You could actually choose effect C before you decide to go with effect B, because they're both in standby now, and you can choose whichever way to resolve it. So that's a little interesting way that Vanguard works. It's a bit different than other games. Now, that's how it works for you, but what if there's another player involved? Say they have an ability that activates at the same time as one of your abilities. So what happens in that case is the turn player, or the player whose turn it is, gets to have all their abilities on standby activate first. So you could have ability A, and your opponent could have ability B. And if it's your turn, then you get to activate your ability and then finish resolving all abilities that become on standby, and then pass it over to your opponent who's not the turn player, and they will get to resolve all of their abilities. So that's how Vanguard works. A bit different than other games. If you played Magic, like the stack, which is first on, first off, it's completely different than that. You basically get to pick and choose from anything that's on standby and go from there. So it does get a little confusing sometimes, but with some practice, you'll definitely get used to it. Thanks for watching Card Fighters and new Card Fighters. I hope you like this How to Play series. I hope it was informative. Please leave a lot of comments below, whether it's criticisms, things I could do better, things that I missed. I'm definitely going to be revisiting this series in the future, so all your comments will help me improve them, kind of clean them up, and make them crisp. And There's also going to be tips and tricks coming and rule questions coming. So if you have any questions like that, again, put them in the comments. I want to give a thanks to all the patrons on Patreon for help making these videos possible. Please head over there if you'd like to support the channel. It's patreon.com/VCAcademy. Link's always going to be in the description. And thanks again for watching. Make sure you hit that subscribe button to stay tuned for those rule questions, tips and tricks, product reviews, things like that. And keep on learning, keep on having fun, and I'll see you in another video.